Welcome to part 2 of my chat with Kamille. In this part of the two-parter series, I really wanted to kind of discuss with Kamille the situation she was in with Uber. I know there was a few people that were curious to know like what happened. So if you were one of those people over on YouTube that were maybe like, I want to know what happened, then, I really wanted her to share it from her perspective. I didn't obviously want to talk about it and, share it because it's not my story. So we talked about that. We talked about how there's really no one way of traveling independently. There's really no one piece of advice or safety tips that is going to prevent situations like this from happening. So be sure to stay tuned for future episodes. If you've got questions, comments, things you want to discuss, or just to discuss the episode further, you can do that over on Instagram at the Tea Diaries Pod. Give me a follow while you're over there and let me know what you'd want to hear next. All right, let's get into this part. I think we should talk about the situation that happened, because I posted a video on YouTube a few weeks ago, and it was like me talking about travel tips that I've used that, I've suggested to people. I never want to talk at people. I don't want to be like, hey, do this. But, I was like, hey, this is what I do. And I mentioned, what you went through with Uber. And I mean, if you feel comfortable, we could talk about that, because people were like, well, I want to hear what happened.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So on Mother's Day, well, okay, we have to back up just a little bit. So the Saturday night before Mother's Day, for some reason, the Face ID just stopped working on my iPhone. I have no idea why, no explanation. It just wasn't doing anything, and it kept going into stolen or theft protection mode. And I was like, oh, no, we can't have that. And I'm the type of person where I'm not going to get it fixed. I'll just get a new one. Especially since it was already halfway paid off. So I said, I'm just going to run to the Verizon store tomorrow, and get it done. Now, I always take Ubers. I told y'all, I take Ubers, Lyfts. I've been jumping in Ubers ever since Uber came around without fear. Just, I got somewhere to go. I have a way to get there. I'm going to do it. So that Sunday, which was Mother's Day, I requested an Uber. I get in the Uber, and the ride seemed to go smoothly. So we arrive at a location. And I asked the driver to walk with me to the door. So we get out of the car, and for those of you who are blind, we are very much aware of our surroundings, right? So we know when something ain't right. I get out the car and I'm like, hey, are you sure this is a Verizon store? We're not there. I don't think we're there. And he insists, yes, this is the Verizon store. This is the Verizon store. And I'm like, I don't think this is. And we're walking and walking. And all of a sudden we get to this door, and he knocks on the door. And again, I knew this wasn't where we were supposed to be. And I said, why are you knocking on the door? We are not at the Verizon store. I knew we weren't there. And all of a sudden he goes, well, I can't help you. I have to go pick somebody up at the airport. And he proceeds to jump in his car and drive off. And I'm like, so you're just not going to help me? So I'm freaking out. I'm panicking. And the trip hasn't ended yet, but when he drove away, he ended the trip. So I'm freaking out. I'm panicking. I don't know what to do because I don't know where I am. Like, what in the world? And so I call my brother-in-law and I say, listen, this just happened. I have no idea where I am. And I was not this calm when I was talking to him. Like, I don't know where I am. The Uber driver just dropped me off, blah, blah, blah. And he's like 20 minutes away from me. And he says, well, call 911. They can come rescue. They can come get you. So I call 911. She dispatches the police, and the police come and they find me. Now, mind you, they tell me, I asked them where they are because I still have no idea where I am. I just know I'm not. Of
course, because you're in a state of panic, rightfully so.
And they say, you are at an apartment complex. And I was like, what? And they said, yeah. And I said, oh my gosh. He said, you are a mile away from the Verizon store. And I'm like,
crazy.
Really, dude? Like you just dropped me off a whole mile away and you lied to me and told me that I was at the Verizon store. So I'm very angry. I'm distraught. I mean, it was just not a good day or it
Yeah.
just was not a good time because who knows what would have happened. Honestly, it was the first time I told you I've been blind my whole life. That was the first time in all of my life that I felt like my life was in danger because I am blind, because I couldn't see
Wow.
who would walk up on me.
Right.
You know, and people ask me, did anybody come up and ask you if you needed help? And I said, no, they didn't. And honestly, I would not have wanted anybody to walk up to me at that time.
Right. Exactly.
hmm So it was on the news. My sister and I, when I got home and whatnot, I called my sister and she spoke with our attorney, and it was on the news the next day. And we are still working now behind the scenes to make
Hmm.
sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else, because that's the thing, though. This is not the first time. I'm not the first person this happens to. I'm not the only person that this has happened to who is blind or has a disability. I've heard a couple of other stories with people who have gone through the same situation where the driver tells them that they are at the right spot and they're not.
Hmm. Yep.
So, you know, we are waiting to see what's going to happen. It's still kind of ongoing. So, I can't talk a whole lot about it, but everything is still in flux right now.
Yeah. I mean, that is that is so frightening on so many levels. Like,
hmm
I can't even, I mean, and like I said, like, this has happened to me, but probably not to this necessary extent of where, like, it was like a random apartment or house or whatever. But it's happened to me where they've dropped me off
hmm
places that weren't even the place I was going to.
Right.
And that's not only scary from the blindness perspective, because you can't look around and say, "Oh, I'm 2 doors down from this place," or whatever. It's also scary because, like, you just don't know. You don't know what his intentions were. You don't know what could have
hmm
been happening,
hmm
or why he was like, and the fact that he was so flustered and was just like, "No, I can't help you. I gotta go."
Right.
That to me
That
is
was
even more sus than anything.
exactly. I can't help you. I have to go. Like, what? Yeah,
Right.
it was crazy. It was wild. And it really took a hit on my confidence and me feeling independent, because like I
Yeah.
told you earlier, these ride shares allow us to come and go as we
Mm-hmm.
please. And for a long time, I did not take another ride share. It was like a few weeks before I even felt comfortable getting in another one by myself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's like I said, like, rightfully so, because I think that's it's just scary. Like, you just don't know. And I think I'm just glad you're safe. I'm
Mhm,
glad that, nothing happened aside from this, obviously.
mhm, mhm,
And I'm just, I'm happy that, like, like you said, you're in the process of working things out with them and figuring things out and whatever. But
mhm,
it's important, and I'm happy that, like, you've even, you shared it on your Instagram, um and just
mhm,
shedding light on it, because I think sometimes people think, "Oh, they're just gonna get in the Uber," and no, like, these things happen all the time to people within disability communities.
mhm.
And these drivers just think it's okay to just be like, "All right, done, I did my job." But you really didn't do your job. Like,
You did not.
you didn't help me get to the place I was even supposed to go. Like, and so it definitely makes you feel like a hindrance in your
Mhm.
own independence, because, yeah, like, so I mean, thank you for sharing it. And
No
I know
problem.
everybody on YouTube was like, "Girl, I want to know what happened." What And I'm like, "I know, I'm gonna have her come on and share it." So I mean, you you definitely have been, we've been talking a lot about it and talking about just kind of like all these problems with
Mm-hmm.
paratransit and Uber and
Mm-hmm.
Lyft and
Oh gosh, yes.
yeah. So, I mean, listen, I think the best thing I can say is just, it's there's no one set in stone piece of advice for traveling independently. I feel like,
Right.
yeah, like, you know what I mean? There's no
I
one set in
do.
stone, like, oh, just do this and you'll be good because the
You
world
have
just
to do
doesn't
all the
work that way.
things. Yeah, like you
Yeah.
have to do all the things. I mean, honestly, like you said, share your location,
Mm-hmm.
uh, make sure that you share your ride with people. And it's funny because that day I just was like, well, I used to share my location only at night if I was traveling somewhere. Because,
Yeah.
it's nighttime. So the one time I was like, man, I should have shared it during the day. But you don't think again, we're just out here living our lives, we're not thinking about that. We're just kind of like, I was like, I'm gonna run an errand and then I'm just gonna be right back home.
Right.
So I didn't even think about it. Again, that one time you don't, then something crazy happens. But I couldn't, I had I had to release that feeling as well. Because like I did nothing wrong. This person did something wrong. Because people can be like, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that?
Yeah.
Do you do all the right things at the right time all the time?
Right. Yeah,
So
exactly.
you
Exactly.
know.
And I mean, like a sighted person, necessarily, they're not really out here, you know, and if they find themselves in a situation like that, I
Mm-hmm.
personally have always said I feel like it's a little bit different because then they can just look around and be like, "Oh, this ain't where I'm supposed to be. I just walked the few blocks down
Yes.
and figured
Yes.
out it's not easy when you're in a place you don't know
Mm-hmm.
and you're placed in a situation that causes you to, of course, panic, rightfully so, because what else can you do when you're placed in a situation like that? And so, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad you're safe and
Me
that,
too, girl.
they were able to get you home and, you know,
Yes, ma'am.
because, yeah,
Yeah. So, like I said, you'll see more, and I'll definitely keep everybody posted.
yes. Is there any projects, anything you're working on currently
Um,
that you want to share with
just stay
everybody?
tuned to social media, because that's more likely where you're going to find out where things are going on. And my Instagram is Kamille, Kamille, Aaliyah, Alia. It's all one word, Kamille Aaliyah. My TikTok is the Kamille Richardson. And if anybody has Facebook out there, I am Kamille Richardson. Because everything's shared on Instagram cross posts over to Facebook now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it automatically does it. So those are my social media handles. So you can follow me there.
Perfect. Anything else you want to share with everyone?
No, I just thank you for allowing me to be here on your podcast. I really appreciate that.
Of course. I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad we got to sit down and chat and just kind of like have you come on and talk about yourself and what you're doing because it's inspiring and it's impactful and I just wanted to highlight that. So definitely give her a follow. So you guys can stay tuned on what she's doing and what she's working on and all the great things. And thank you so much, Kamille, for coming on.
You are so very welcome.
All right, everyone. I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.